Hey everybody, Nikki Buckaloo here at the Seniors Real Estate Institute, and I am so excited you're joining us for today's CSHP showcase. And I'm such I have learned to look forward to these because I'm in such great company when I get to interview CSHPs who are really at the top of their game. And so thank you guys for joining me today. Regina out in Columbus, Ohio, and Dayna out in the California area, and I'll have everybody introduce themselves. And of course, Freda out in North Carolina. So we've got people from all over the country today, which is fun, having people from different regions around the country. And we're going to dive in the folks that are logging onto this call right now and the people who will be watching it in a video replay later. I just want to compliment all of you, first of all. And the reason that you're asked to be interviewed today is because you are doing things differently, like we do at SREI, right? You truly are different. And so I just appreciate you for that. So let's dive into what it is that makes you different from all the other real estate agents out there in the marketplace. So let's just kind of start with a brief introduction. Freda, I'm going to start with you. How long have you been in real estate?
And I've been in real estate 7 years.
And how long specializing in working with seniors?
I've been working with seniors pretty much the whole time. So 6 years. Right after I got my license, I started.
Perfect. And Dayna, how long have you been in real estate and specializing with seniors?
I got my license back in 2006, but I was working in the securities realm. So when the market tanked in 2008, I ventured into the residential arena. And it's been about, I'm going to say it's been about 8 years since I've really been focused on boomers and seniors.
Wonderful. Very good. And Regina, how long for you in real estate and then working with seniors specifically?
Believe it or not, 22 years, and it'll be 23 in November. And I've worked with seniors pretty much from the beginning. My very first sale was to a senior couple.
Isn't that wild when you look back and you go, oh my gosh, it's been over 2 decades, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, you must have started when you were 10 then, and that's the right thing to say, right? All right, good deal. So what I want us to talk about is that motivation. Like Regina, you mentioned, your first client was a senior, but your specialization in working with seniors kind of evolved over time. So when you decided, gosh, I'm going to specialize and I'm going to make this a part of my everyday real estate practice, what motivated that decision?
Okay, well, I was always told that I was a quote unquote old soul, if you say. I took a couple of bus trips with my mother, and needless to say, I was the youngest person on the bus, but it didn't bother me. I was very comfortable with it and I enjoyed it so. So when I came back from that second trip with her, I thought to myself, I'm going to do something with seniors. I just wasn't sure what it was. Never even thought that it would translate into my real estate business, but that is what happened.
Wow, isn't that fun? I took a bus trip one time with my first husband's grandmother. Actually gave us a gift of a bus trip, and we had no idea what we were getting into, and we took it, and we were definitely the youngest people on the bus trip, and like you, I enjoyed it immensely. Like I did. It was blissful.
It was.
Very cool. Very cool.
Right.
Okay. So your motivation, it sounds to me like, just so I'm clear, is like you really connect with older adults. You always have.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dayna, let me shift over to you. You have kind of come through real estate in a little different path and made a decision to specialize. And so what went into that decision and motivated you to say, I'm going to specialize in working with mature adults?
So I think it's so foundational for me because I was very, very close with both sets of my grandparents. And they both lived within 20 minutes of where I grew up. And I would spend many, many weekends with both sets. And they were such an important part of my life and the foundation of who I am, and the things that I learned from them and the stories they shared is part of me. And then in high school, there were volunteering opportunities. I volunteered at what used to be called a nursing home or a convalescent home, which we now call a SNF or a skilled nursing
Right.
facility. And I loved it. I mean, I would help feed people. I'd make them laugh. So that was really interesting. And then in high school, again, more volunteering at the local hospital. I probably could have been a doctor, but I wasn't very good at chemistry. So so that was, I think that's the foundation. And I've joked with people that if I had to be locked in a room with pets, children, or older folks, oh, I would pick the latter every day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it was now, again, just like Regina mentioned earlier, is a natural gravitation
Yeah.
towards the more
Yeah.
mature audience. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Freda, how about you? What was your motivation for making this a part of your specialty?
Well, in 2013, my mom, well, in 2012, my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And so I knew that I would have to basically live with my dad after she passed. We just didn't know how long, she would be here. And so we had to move into a house, and we went looking for houses together. And at the same time as we were looking for houses, I was going through real estate class, and I watched the on-site agent, there was new construction, shuffle the papers through my parents. They had no idea what they were reading. They signed it. The agent who actually was representing us got a $5,000 bonus, and we didn't even know about it because they just threw the paperwork through. There was all this, and after finishing my licensing, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We should have been informed of all of the stuff that was going on.
Sure.
And that. And then one of my first transactions was with an older couple, friends of theirs. And my mom was like, hey, you should talk to Freda because that just doesn't sound right. She had been interviewed another agent. And that agent was like, you need to take your office apart and pack all that up and get all this stuff around and put a bed in there, which it was a huge bookshelves and stuff. And they were like, well, we can't get all this stuff done. What are we going to do? We need to sell our house because we need to move. Our apartment's ready. And I went in and I was like, if anybody looks at that bedroom and sees the office and doesn't know that it's a bedroom, they shouldn't buy a house.
Right.
Because it's a bedroom.
Necessarily causing
You're
problems.
making this, so they were stressing them out and stuff. And I was just like, you need to leave for a day. I sold the house in a day. The week before, I took the pictures. The week before, they had a garage sale, sold all their furniture. So when we showed the house, there was a chair, there was a rug, a chair, and an end table in the living room. And that was it. There was no dining room table. All that had been sold. And I was like, well, okay. They were like, is that a problem? I was like, nope. We're going to sell the house. It's fine. All the little tchotchkes are put away. That's all I worried about. And so, just being there and making sure that they understand what they were doing and doing that was my motivation. I've been doing it ever since.
I hear that from other CSHPs as well, that, sometimes it was a bad experience with an agent who didn't know what they were doing that caused you to go, okay, this could be done so much better for the client. And and part of that comes from life experience, like you said, where you helped your parents, right? You you knew what they needed. And so that translated into what most people at that phase of life might need. So good job for that. Yeah. So I'm going to just kind of take it a little bit deeper. Obviously you didn't get where you are now overnight, right? Like you didn't just go, hey, I think I'm going to specialize and, wave a magic wand and it happened. So Dayna, I'll start with you. What steps did you take in order to get from, I think I'm going to make this a specialty, to where you are now, and that is a go-to agent in your market for older people?
And this has taken years, and sometimes I'm not the most patient person when it comes to wanting to do something. Yet I looked into what was available to the normal realtor, right? And what popped up was the seniors real estate specialist designation. And at the time, there was only 16,000 people, 16,000 realtors in the United States that had earned that designation. But those that I know of personally, locally, they have the little letters after their names. but I don't see them doing anything too different.
Sure.
So, you know, the SRES designation, I think, gave me probably a little bit more credibility, but the content was pretty thin, really.
Yeah.
And I still felt like there was so much more I wanted or needed to learn. So the next step was took quite a few years. I met Nikki at an 8-week Keller Williams Realty course called Bold.
Yeah.
And she was my bold coach. She was very direct, but very inspiring, smart, funny, tough, but in a kind of a loving way. I can't explain it. But like, I knew, my gosh, I could learn so much from this woman. And so I came across, and I don't even know how, I came across learning what she was doing years later as a coach.
Yeah.
And you were coaching in a lot of different areas, but I saw that helping agents better understand how to serve seniors was one of your kind of specialized coaching areas. And so I've done one-on-one coaching with you. I've done some group coaching with you, coming to the conferences. So I would say that, and also learning from other people that have done it. Like you and Chris have done it. You were successful at it. I've met others just like Regina and Freda and so many others that are successful, and they're doing this as well. And so I'm learning from them. There's always a new aha. So I want to say something though about the specializing is that in the beginning, I was very afraid to market myself as a boomers and seniors specialist, because I thought, well, then all these millennials, they won't want to work with me because I only work with older folks.
Oh, right.
And I was afraid that I would be losing business. And the complete opposite happened. Nobody's ever questioned, oh, you know, maybe you're not the right agent for me. Never. So that was kind of a very interesting aha. And I think the next steps are things that I've learned mostly, again, through the SREI, is creating very strong relationships and rapport with the local senior communities, as well as the attorneys and CPAs and financial advisors and professional fiduciaries in my sphere, and other senior service providers.
Yeah.
So that was another step to kind of moving me towards better serving seniors.
Yeah. So Dayna, let me just clarify and make sure I understand. So what I hear you saying is that because you had to go out and build this resource team of people to be able to serve seniors at the level you wanted to, not only did you learn what you needed to learn, but you know, you're doing it together, right? These resource team members, as you call them, providers, they're not just there for your clients, they're also there to help you learn. And over the years, you've mastered that, right? Like interviewing them. And
well, then from that, I founded a group called the Senior Solutions Group. And we're a small group of professionals. You know, we have a CPA and an elder law attorney and a move manager, et cetera, et cetera. But we've been meeting for 8 years. And we still meet every month. And we're not a leads group. We don't do that. We don't even go there. But we know and like and trust each other. Like we are a team. And that is awesome. I can call them and they call me, and we do refer business, of course, to each other. But I would say the last and maybe most important step was starting seminars, starting free educational seminars for the boomers and seniors in my area, bringing them educational information so they can make their own decisions. And the business that has come from that, and the sponsors and the people I've met, I'm working with 2 families right now that are, I have groupies and newbies. They're groupies. They started coming 4 years ago. We are in contract with both of them right now. It took them 4 years.
right. Yeah.
So some of the steps I've taken.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so it's been a journey, right? It didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen in a vacuum. There were other people that you engaged with. Yeah. So we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into your seminars and to the networking groups that you have as we talk further. But I think everybody would agree that those steps were part of a journey, right? And they continue, and you're learning each and every day, I know. Freda, let me jump over there to you and ask you the same question. So what steps did you take from the time you said, gosh, this person is not being served the way that they should be, and you recognized that, and you decided you were going to be that person? How did you go about that?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a team lead in my office that knew you and was trying to get a group in our state of senior, senior group of realtors are going to serve seniors. And we were trying to build a team. And several of them found out it was going to cost them money and they didn't want to do it. And so I kept with Chris and I said, okay, I'm going to take it online. So I took it online and then I took it live. After that, I flew out to Oklahoma and we took it, I think it was, it was Oklahoma. We took it live out there. And, it just went from there. And that was my second year, pretty much my first year of real estate. It was like, this is really, really what I want to do. From getting my CSHP, I went and I've got certified as an aging in place specialist from the Home Builders Association. I've been on the National Aging in Place Council in the Triangle. I serve on that board. So trying to surround myself with other professionals that are concerned with the senior population and how they live. And finally, last year, I guess it was right before COVID, I went and did SRES online and sat in a hotel room because it had gotten canceled and said, okay, I'm going to do this in 2 days. And got through it and I was like, seriously, that was it? I could teach that class. So now I do seminars and attend several networking groups, but every day with my clients is a different situation. I've had different situations. This week has been, I said, Mars is in retrograde because it has been a freaking crazy week. And I had a senior this morning. She said, you really sold my house for that much? Now I have to admit, I can't believe we sold the house for that much. And I said, yes. And she freaked out and hung up on me. And then she called back and she texted me, and this just happened today. She texted me back. She goes, I'm sorry. I just had to cry because I can't believe that you actually got me that much money. And I was like, neither can I. Now I need to figure out how you're going to move in 2 weeks because I don't think you're ready. So, all hands on deck next week to get her moved. And it's just doing, the more interaction, it's the joy of every day, as frustrating as it has been. It's still a joy when they're happy and they're served and I can take some of the worry off their plate. Right. And tell them it's okay. We've had a crazy week. One of my other listings, the seniors, the house was broken into and the refrigerator and the washer and dryer have been moved out of the house and it's under contract to close in 2 weeks. So I always say, keeping them off the ledge. Yeah. And calm. Right. And
handling it. Yeah.
Yeah. Handling it. And most of the stuff they don't even know we do. Right. I keep telling her, I said, there's so much stuff going on behind that you just don't know that I'm doing. I'm negotiating. The buyer came back with all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, I can't even tell them this information because she will freak out on me today. I was like, not going to tell her. I'm just going to write them back and go, oh, it'd be really nice if somebody would do all those things for a house for you. You can do them after you move in.
So hold that thought for a second, because I want to talk more about that in our next question about kind of what differentiates you guys, because I know that you guys, all of you, are consummate professionals when it comes to and serving your clients, but I also know you're major advocates for your clients. And that's kind of what you're alluding to there. I'm going to have you hold that thought. Okay. I want to open it up to Regina and ask Regina to just share with us real quick kind of what it is that you had to do to get from point A to point B, from the beginning of when you specialized to now. What steps did you need to take, Regina?
Okay, well, after about, I think it was a year or two after I took that last trip with my mother, I got my seniors real estate specialist designation, SRES. And then I formed a group of professionals. It was 4 of us, and we called ourselves the Fab Four. It included myself, a lender who did reverse mortgages, a move manager, and an estate planning financial planner. And we went around and we did presentations for senior communities and also senior centers. Well, we didn't have much success. So it was in 2013 when I took your continuing education class here in Columbus, and I was so impressed. And I thought to myself after that, I said, her philosophy is a lot like mine.
Yeah.
So a year after that, when you offered Success in Seniors Real Estate here in Columbus, needless to say, I took the class, and I feel like I have went strong ever since then, because I felt like that was the foundation that you laid for me to just go forward with what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So
I remember that vividly, because you came up after and said, you know, oh my gosh, like I've been trying to do this, and now I realize that there is a strategy, and that's what you wanted was a strategy, like you had been doing it and having some success, but not to the level you knew you could have.
Right.
And so you know, I always say we attract those people that we're supposed to attract into our lives, right? And
I agree.
it sounds to me like there are no coincidences for any of us. So
no, not at all.
So I want to talk a little bit about you guys specifically and what it is you do. Now, obviously, we couldn't talk about all of the things because it would take us 2 days, because you guys do so many different things that are that separate you from the other agents in the market. But give me kind of the consolidated version of that, if you could, and I'll start with you, Freda. What specifically would you say in your market you do differently than a typical real estate agent out there as it relates to serving seniors?
It's funny. I read this this question in preparation, and I put down, my first objective is not to sell a home without a plan, and thus creating a homeless senior.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are just too many agents that are more worried about getting the house sold, getting it listed, getting it sold, than they are where are they moving to. And I did a class this morning, this morning I did a presentation. I did one yesterday. I said, I need to know what your plan is before we can even, the house is at the end.
Right.
And I think that's the difference, is being relationship orientated with my clients and walking the whole pathway I'm laying the groundwork right now for my clients who are selling next year.
Yeah.
They're not even selling in the next few months. It's like, we need to start looking and things like that. And CSHP, I think having that designation and having the education and everything I have, it laid the foundation for creating a system to ensure that this doesn't happen.
Right.
You know, that to learn and to teach them and to explain that the first thing we have to do is not worry about getting the house on the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as a real estate agent, when they call you, that's what they think you can do. That's all they think you can do. Right. And then when you meet with them and help them realize that there are other details that maybe they haven't considered that go into this process, like what are you going to do with your stuff after you move, you know?
When do we get the junk hauler in?
Yeah, you know, and sometimes that's true. But what I hear you saying is that, you know, I know before I became somebody specializing in this market, you know, it's been 20 plus years for me too, but I remember thinking all I really ever thought about was selling the house. Yeah. And, you know, for a real estate agent, it's kind of like if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Right.
And if you're a real estate agent, you're focusing on property. But as a CSHP, you guys have other motivations besides that, and that's taking care of the client. So Dayna, talk to me a little bit about your points of difference, and you alluded to a few of them earlier in your former conversation, but kind of expand upon that. What really makes you different and sets you apart?
Well, I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you a story. How about that?
Okay.
So, and this story is still ongoing. So it's very fresh. I was on vacation. Yes, realtors do have to take vacation once in a while. We were on vacation at our cabin. And of course, I'm checking in with work multiple times a day. And this gentleman sends an email, and it was about 10 pages long. I'm not kidding. If it had been pages. And they were looking to hire an agent to help them sell their home. Okay, fine and dandy. He said, I do not want any phone calls. I want this all to be email for now. Very unusual and very difficult, because I'm not a writer, you know, this is very interesting. But he laid out specific questions that he was comparing and contrasting. Are you ready? 9 agents. He was interviewing 9 agents. So I got to the final 4 and I came home one day and I said, you know, honey, when I told my husband, you know, when I was sort of, you know, kind of concerned that, gosh, this is going on for a long time and they're not going to hire me. I said, now I'm getting a little concerned that they're going to hire me because this is going to be a lot of work. Sure enough, I finally I picked up the phone and I called them. I go, Bill, I know I'm breaking all your records, all your rules. I'm not supposed to call you. And yet I cannot build rapport with anyone without a phone call and preferably a meeting. But I need to tell you this. I can help you with all of your challenges. I am ready and willing to help you. But this has got to stop. we will move forward now, and you know, it's time to help you get moving on to the next, you know, phase. And he said, done, you're hired. And I won't even talk to you about what I said, because I don't know if it's appropriate in this presentation, but what I said about my fees, because I actually increased them on that phone call. I increased them from what I had told them previously, because I said, you know, this is going to be a process. Anyway, this has been going on for months, and we've gone through a lot of emotional hand-holding, because their home is very much an as-is home. It's very unusual. It's on a very steep lot, and it is packed with things. Like packed with things. If you open the garage door, it is floor to ceiling, front to back. You can't walk in. Yeah. Their home was like that too, and had been very neglected. And they were adamant that they wanted to do remodeling. And yet their ideas of remodeling was change some faucets in the bathroom and paint the garage door. And I said, that's not going to do it. So we went through weeks and weeks of talking about what we offer, which is called a ready to sale program, which offers financing. I also got them, they were late in their mortgage payments. They didn't even have the money to move.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, Dayna, to kind of wrap up what I hear you saying in this story. Yeah. Is that there are lots of moving parts with this client, right? This wasn't an easy client. And how many realtors do all of us know that would have walked away from that a long time ago, right? And just said, I'm out. So let me ask you this, what keeps you in that relationship? What is it that's causing you? Because I know that it's not about the money for you. It's what is it that's keeping you in this transaction to see it through to the end?
Yes. And so this has been really, really interesting. They did finally decide to sell it as is, which is what I was saying all along. And this was very unusual. And I very rarely act as a dual agent. They wanted me to sell it off market, and they wanted me to represent the buyer. And I said, well, this is very unusual, and let's talk about the pros and cons of this, right? And they said, no. We like you, we trust you, and we know you have our best interests at heart. I got six buyers interested. We got 2 offers, and we are pending at $100,000 more than that ready to sell program would have offered them. Yeah. And we will be closing escrow on Monday.
Yay, right? And, you know, at the end of the day, we do our little happy dance, right, as real estate professionals, because getting someone from that point to that point at closing can be a long process and challenging. What do you think their response to that will be? It probably won't be, yay, the happy dance, but do you think it will be we made it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're moving into this little extra casita their son has in hopes of buying another home. but they said, you have been a miracle worker, Dayna, and you've held our hand. And then I met the son a couple days ago, and he said, I just have to tell you in an email. He prefers email, and he told me why. Because he said he has a very bad memory, and if he doesn't have it written down, he may not remember. Because we're exchanging a lot of information. He said, my son is very good at recognizing people's characters, and he got the same impression about you as we did. So you're one of our family now.
Right.
That's what makes my job so rewarding.
What a nice compliment, Yeah. And by the way, after you have spent that much time and energy with people, you do kind of start to feel like a family. And sometimes the family is very functional, and other times it could be dysfunctional. Either way, we're all family.
Yep.
Good. Regina, I'm going to move over to you and ask you to share with us, really what is it that you see happening in your business that separates you from the other agents out there when it comes to working with these longtime homeowners?
Okay, well, one I would say is relationship building.
Mhm.
I'm very key on that. And the case in point will be, there was a senior couple I was working with several years ago. This was a home that they had raised their daughter in. And at the same time, I was working with another couple, listed their home, sold them another home. Well, it just so happens that the one couple, the earlier couple, they had got an apartment which was literally around the corner from the home that the last couple bought. And I thought it would be great if the two of them could meet each other. So I arranged for them to meet each other, and it led to at least one or two encounters after that. Now, both of their husbands are both deceased now, but I was just glad to put those two couples together because I knew they would hit it off. So I felt like it was a match made in heaven. There is I have on my senior resource team of professionals, I call him a jack of all trades because he's a handyman and he does it all. So he's done work for quite a few of my clients and they all just love him. And I was just glad to, again, put those relationships together. And the one client that I was telling you about, I've worked with her on 3 transactions because we recently sold that home that I was telling you about. And her daughter tells me, she said, she's still bragging about you. So everywhere I go, they say she is still telling everyone about you after all these years. And it just makes me feel good. It makes me feel real warm inside. The fact that after all these years, my clients are still bragging about how I have helped them and the relationships that I have created just by working with them.
Now, there's no doubt in my mind that is true, just based on knowing you, that you're a connector, right?
Yes.
One of my favorite pictures of you, which I share with people frequently, is a picture of you with your groupies that come to your seminars in front of a senior community bus, a van,
Yes.
people mover. And you had started doing the bus tours to go to senior living communities. And I want you to just talk a little bit about that because I want to preface it with this, being in real estate for as long as we have, we're from old school days where you used to get in the car and take a caravan, a bunch of realtors, and we'd go look at houses together, right?
Right.
And people have stopped doing that largely because of the internet, right? We don't need to go drive around and look at houses. We just do it on a computer. And so you kind of took that old model and said, people are not going out and looking at these communities, even though we're encouraging them to, and you put together field trips, right?
Yes, I did. And one of the reasons I thought about it, I said, they hear about these communities all the time at our seminars. I'm going on my 7th year of doing seminars come 2022. And I thought, what a way, I said, we've got to come up with a way for them to actually have hands-on experience with these communities so that they can touch and feel and see what they're actually like. After the first tour, everyone was just coming up to me, oh, I'm so glad you did this, because now we can really see, we don't just hear about it in the seminars, but now we get to really see what they're really like. And we don't have to worry about people coming up to us and asking us about our personal business. We can just feel free and be comfortable walking through it and not feel like someone's trying to sell us. We can just comfortably walk through these communities.
Yeah. Now, how many of those
Yeah.
bus tours have you done so far? I know you had to stop when COVID started.
Yeah.
but Yeah.
I've only done 2, but we're gearing up for next year already.
Already.
Because as a matter of fact, I called the bus company yesterday to
Good. Get them
just
on the
so
bus.
we could to get on board. Yes. So we
Good.
plan on doing 2 more next year.
Yeah. I think that's an invaluable service.
Oh,
Absolutely
it is.
invaluable. And so Freda, back to you now, just kind of share with us a little bit about that point of difference that you started talking about earlier in terms of, and I really want you to talk about, I know that you started this interview out with kind of that story about that agent who didn't have a plan, right? And so maybe you could elaborate on that, or if there's something else you'd like to share, that's totally fine too.
So, yeah, a lot of agents don't have a plan.
Right.
I was in a educational, well, it hit me, and this reminds me of the story. I was in a listing, becoming a listing specialist class. And there was a young lady agent in the front of the room, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I had this listing and it was so awesome, and it sold in 2 days and everything." And then I looked at my seller and I said, "Isn't this great?" She goes, "Sure. Where am I going to move to? And when did you say I have to move?" And I'm sitting in the back of the class going, oh my gosh,
Right.
this is why we need a plan, because now she had nowhere to go. And I'm in an area in the Raleigh-Durham area where places to go are not, they're not that frequent. They're very overbooked. We have a lot of communities that are 2 to 10 years out on a waiting list. And you've got a lady who's got to move in 30 days and you're so proud of yourself because you sold the house.
Right.
But you didn't create a plan and put that plan in together. And my clients are constantly teaching me through my seminars and through the experiences that every plan is different. And we learned a lot about today. We were talking about what's the trigger. They want to age in place.
Right.
I said, well, everybody can age in place until, what's the until?
Till their health changes.
Until their health changes. A lot of times it's a wheelchair, but how do we get around? So
and that until is different for everybody, right?
That's right. And then I said, that doesn't,
open-ended question. Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't matter what the until is. I had eight people there, 8 people there and 8 different untils.
Yeah.
But what is the trigger? And I always talk about what's the trigger that gets you to move to something else, or change how you're getting, taken care of in your own home, because sometimes they just want to stay.
So I don't mean to interrupt, but I can't help really in my mind, when you're just talking about this, I can envision you in that room with these attendees and the fact that other real estate agents are not talking about this, right? I've been to plenty of real estate seminars where the main focus of the seminar is sell now, sell now, sell now, or buy now, buy now, buy now, depending on the seminar. It's not, what if you'd like to live where you're living now for the rest of your life, how do you create that plan? And what's your contingency plan if you can't? And that's the next step I hear you taking, which is, if you want to move, I can do that. I'm a real estate professional, but if you don't want to move, or you're not sure how you're going to make this work, I have this ability to help you through that decision-making process.
And with the CAP certification, this was aging in place today. And I have an interior design background, so heavy on the architecture. And so what do we do? Can you come in, and how much do you charge, or who do we pay? And I said, well, I make my money selling houses. But I make my daily life is about helping seniors in transition.
Absolutely.
The house part, the money takes care of itself. The helping seniors figure out how they're going to live their best life in their later life is my lifestyle. Yeah. That's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
I think that's the key right there. I'm going to leave it at that, because that is the difference, right? It's the mindset difference about what we do is less about what we actually do and about how we approach it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Briefly. Well said. Yeah. Dayna, did we fully explored the answer to that question with you first, right? So we're,
You did, but can I just share a really quick story before we move on to the next
yeah, of
question?
course. Yeah,
Super quick.
yeah,
This is something I would never have done before, hanging out with you and your group. I had presented a webinar a couple months back, and I got a call from the wife, and she asked me to come over to their home. She said, my daughter and son-in-law will be here from Georgia. My other daughter, who lives close by, will be here. I'd like you to come over and talk with us. And I said, well, Mrs. P, what are you wanting to talk about, so I can be fully prepared for our time together? And she said, well, you see, my husband has stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and I am in the early stages of Parkinson's. And I attended my first seminar on Zoom with you recently, and you're the person we need to talk with.
Yeah.
And I was so honored that they would reach out to me,
yeah,
you know, over everyone else, over their pastor or their attorney or what have you. So when I showed up at their door, at their home, we met at their dining room table, and she had a cup of water on a coaster, and we were all sitting around the table. They had their pens and their pads, and they were looking at me saying, what are our options? What do we do?
yeah.
That is not your normal, that's not normal real estate.
No.
And so I was very deeply moved. And we were very real about her husband Bill's passing, and what would occur, and when that would occur, and what would take place. We talked about, you know, she was concerned about staying in her home, and it was a pretty meaty, truthful meeting. And this Bill passed away suddenly 2 weeks later. But we've got an estate sale all lined up. We've got her out with a placement manager looking at different places near her daughter. I mean, what a gift and an honor to do that kind of work and service. So I just had to share that, because that is night and day from 10 years ago in real estate, at least in my real estate practice. So thank you.
No, thank you for sharing that, because I think your point is well taken in that we say this all the time, you know, sometimes in what we do as CSHPs, it's a mixture of ministry, it's a mixture of social work, it's a mixture of counseling, legal, financial, right? All of the pieces of the puzzle. And then you guys are able to take those pieces and create a plan with people, and then connect them, like you said, Regina, with the people that are experts in those particular areas. It's a lifesaver for the people that you're describing, no doubt. So if you were going to give some advice to people out there listening today, like we've got people on this webinar, and then we've got people that listen to these webinars as recorded replays that are in real estate now, and they're thinking, you know what, I don't know, this might be the area I want to specialize in, or I'm looking for something different in real estate. And they're thinking maybe seniors is the area that they want to go into. So I don't know what your answers are to this. And I always am amazed at what people say when I ask this question, but what advice would you give these real estate agents in regard to that question? Regina, I'll start with you.
Okay, it's simple. You need a heart for working with this audience, and you definitely have to have a passion for it. As you can see, we all have a passion for working with this audience, and you definitely have to have patience. If you don't have those three, maybe you might not necessarily want to consider working with this audience. But if you have them, I highly encourage you to consider working with this audience.
Awesome. Very well said. Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. Freda, what about you? What would you say? What is your advice?
Well, it's a funny question. I looked at it and I wrote out answers really quickly. Learn all you can. And that's not about the real estate part. That's about senior issues. Every senior issue, you need to know about what financial planning, and you need to know about what elder law is, and what the situations are, and what a trust is, and guardianship, and just all of that, and build that network of people to support you. Learn to be very patient. It's not a 30-minute listing consultation. It's I block my calendar for 2. I hope to be out in 3, and my longest one has been 5. And I get every one of those listings, but I create a relationship. The last 2 things I would tell you is buy reams of paper and lots of printer ink, because you are going to run through both.
Yeah, amen to that. 100% agree. Yeah.
100%.
Dayna, what about you? What advice would you give to realtors considering this niche?
I would suggest those realtors really think about their why. Like, why do they want to specialize in working with this demographic? People always tell me, oh, Dayna, you're so strategic to be working with this group because, you know, they all need to sell their homes. That's not why I do it. This happened very naturally and organically. And if these agents are really looking into this, I would say if you want to specialize in this, then jump into it 110%. Don't do it part way. If this is where you should be focused in your life, you will not only survive, you will thrive, and you will be richly rewarded in other ways besides monetary. So that's what I would suggest.
Well said. Yeah. Gosh, guys, I couldn't have said that any better myself. Okay, last question. And I know we're running a little bit long, so let's keep this one as concise as we can. So what would you say to seniors and their families out there, and they're saying, oh my gosh, I love you guys. Can you help me? And let's say that they can't find a CSHP in their market because we're still growing, right? We don't have enough people in every market yet. Freda, what would you say to those people to make sure they're asking, what should they be asking agents to make sure they hire the right person?
So I wrote down a couple of things here. Communication. Make sure that the agent is willing to communicate with you in the manner you're comfortable. If they are only going to do emails and texts and you want a phone call or an in-person, you need to ask about that. Ask how they're handling documents. Do you have to DocuSign? Are you comfortable with DocuSign? You know, I've had clients who are comfortable with DocuSign. They still have to print everything and deliver it to them after they've signed it because they don't know how to print it. And then, you know, will they help you explore all of your living options?
Not just the ones in the MLS.
Not just buying a house so that they can get another commission check, but are they capable of helping you look for a rental or a community, and do they know what your options are? Because I think you need to know all your options.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, no, well, that's well said. Yeah. Regina, what about you? What would you say to people looking for an agent? What should they be looking for?
Well, definitely what Freda just said, because I was going to say, you should ask an agent, if I don't plan on purchasing another home, how will you help me to find my next home?
Very well.
And what assistance will you provide me to prepare my home for sale? For instance, move management, and if the situation warrants, estate sale help, or are you just going to list and market my home? Those should be the questions that you should be asking.
Good. Very, very good. Yeah. Dayna, what did you say? What should people be asking?
Ditto for what Freda and Regina definitely just said. I think another thing that I keep coming across is ask your agent, do they understand probate and trust transactions? Do they understand that if you're selling and you want your kids to sign all the documents that they probably and possibly legally cannot, and you still be signing them? Power of attorney does not allow. So it's the nuances of actually making all this happen, and having those other professionals to consult with and introduce them to. So the attorneys and the CPAs, et cetera. Sometimes it's geriatric care management for the adult children, because what we do is also working with the adult children a lot. So it's not always just the seniors.
Right.
So, you know, and I would say really, ultimately, ask your agent, will they give you the confidence and peace throughout this whole process? Will they educate you and support you and hold your hand and listen to you so you have all the options to make the best decisions for yourself? Will your other agents do that for you? And it gets really quiet.
I think you guys you've hit every nail on the head, because all of those things are so critical. And what I wish is that we had one of you in every single market across the country. And that's what we're working on right now at the Seniors Real Estate Institute, because once somebody meets someone like you, they want everyone to have someone like you. And that's very complimentary. Absolutely appreciate everything you guys do, admire all the hard work that you've put into this. And it's an honor to be in business together with each one of you. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to, for those of you who are listening in, we're going to be putting in the comment section, in the recorded replay, how to get a hold of each one of these 3 amazing CSHPs. Those of you who are listening to the replay, we have a slide up with their information as well. And we would encourage you to reach out if you're thinking about specializing. Any one of these guys could give you a kind of a little bit of guidance on how to make that happen. And of course, we here at SREI are happy to do that as well. So thanks everybody on the call today for joining us. And I will see you guys on our next showcase. Thanks, Dayna and Freda and Regina. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Nikki.
Nikki.